I've been tutoring a little bit while I was in university. これ、ちょっとつまんない。They're So, and what we also saw, and that was very interesting, I think, that there was a black guy with a PhD who was talking to students. I said, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you not even trying to pass the exams?" Apparently, kids from black schools in the US, they are very much underperforming versus other kids, white kids, Mexican kids, Chinese kids, any kind of racial background. Black kids are really underperforming. They're not even trying to pass the exam.
Even not trying.
Why they are not making effort to doing something?
Because I feel the way that I feel what's happening, and what's happening also in the Netherlands with North African immigrants, they don't feel that they're part of the system. They don't want to be part of the system. They feel that the system is not for them. The system doesn't exist for them. So Dutch society doesn't really give the same opportunities to all of its members. So they feel that they're being discriminated upon, that they don't have equal opportunities in the labor market. So they feel, well, if you don't want us, then we don't want to be with you.
United States? Why they don't treat black people under the equal position?
Well, officially they do. Officially they do. But, I mean, if you put yourself in the psychology of an entrepreneur who is hiring somebody, I mean, basically hiring somebody is a very uncertain process. You don't really know. Okay, you have a resume, but you don't really know whether this person is actually going to live up to your expectations, what you want this person to do and what you talk about. Can you trust this person? That's basically what everybody who is hiring somebody is asking him or herself. So in this kind of uncertainty, what a lot of people will look at...
They wanted to pick white people instead of black?
If the person is white, there's a very big opportunity that they will look for somebody who went to the same kind of school that they went to, who went to the same church, because they kind of understand that culture. They kind of understand what kind of nest this person comes from, and because of the statistics, perhaps, that they have fewer problems with the employees that have this kind of racial background, that kind of racial background. So, I think in terms of risk hedging and the importance of having good staff for an entrepreneur, it's kind of logical that entrepreneurs kind of like give preferential treatment to people that are the same as they are. And given that the United States is predominantly white and money is mostly centered in white hands, it makes sense that black people do not get the same opportunities. Maybe not explicitly, but implicitly they do. And this is also the same case in the Netherlands with kids, especially second generation kids from North African immigrants from Morocco, Turkey. They can go to the same school. They get the same education, cost the same. They actually absolutely get the same opportunities to get education. But somehow it doesn't work out because they go to their education that they end up with is below average because they were not grown up speaking Dutch. They spoke Turkish at home. They spoke Moroccan at home. And that gives them a bit of a lagging behind. Plus, there are like implicit feelings, like how people feel more comfortable with people with the same background. Now, these kids, they are born and raised in the Netherlands, right? Their parents may be Moroccan, but they are born and raised in the Netherlands. They have been there for their entire lives. But on the outside, they look like immigrants. So they feel very much discriminated against. They feel that they don't get a fair chance
In Dutch?
in the Netherlands.
Mm.
So in Dutch, there are many. How size of the population from the Turkey or North African
About
countries?
15%.
15.
So-
Oh, 15 is I think big.
That's 10 times more than Japan.
Yeah, Japan is
1.5.
Yeah.
Less than 1.5.
But 15 is I think big. Yeah. In Europe,
15 is kind of normal, average
Normal?
for Western Europe.
Oh, really?
It's the same for Turkey, same for France, same for England.
No, really.
It's around 15. There's a little variation, little gradation, but
So many Western countries, if they are same situation, like how can I say, like kids can't speak the French or Dutch or.
I think that actually, we'll look at a few videos today about kids from immigrants, but these kids speak Dutch fluently. I think these kids have another difficulty. Like they are being raised by parents who they moved to the Netherlands, but they didn't really become Dutch. Because there was a kind of like laissez-faire. There's a kind of attitude of the Dutch society that's called multiculturalism, and that multiculturalism means that there is a coexistence of multiple cultures. So if you want to be a Muslim in the Netherlands, that's perfectly possible. If you want to start a mosque, that's perfectly possible. If you want to start a Muslim school, that's perfectly possible. You can have a Muslim soccer club. Everything is perfectly possible. It's allowed.
Oh, really?
But the problem is that actually this leads to those people finding their own way in society, but they don't really mix. So they live in the Netherlands, but they are actually continuing the lives as they lived them when they were back at home. And kids, they grow into these families and they are part of that society, but then they go to school. And in that school, everything comes together. They are there together with other kids, Dutch kids. And then in school, there is a Dutch culture. Everything is possible, and you can say, you don't have to use the polite form so much, and the women and men have equal rights, and all these things, all these values are being taught to these children. It's not like that at home. At home, they have different. So, what happened? I saw a documentary on television once that a Turkish guy who was arguing that, so we come to the Netherlands and then my son is not behaving like I want him to behave, and I correct him, I raise him, I try to make a man out of him. But then the police comes to my house and tells me that I cannot hit my son. So if I cannot hit him, then it's your responsibility. So a lot of parents apparently think like this. And these kids feel like, oh, I'm not welcome at home. I'm not really welcome in Dutch society. So you know what? We are going to organize ourselves. We are going to take care of ourselves. We don't need you. So there are groups of people in our society that don't really want to belong into that society.
It's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be
future,
a big
right?
problem. It is
Already
it is a problem.
clearly problem now in Dutch society.
I mean, if you look at
even the US,
populists in Europe, they all have this on their agenda. They're pointing at the crime statistics, they're pointing at the education statistics, they're pointing at the unemployment statistics. And in every statistic, these groups are overrepresented. And they're saying, these people, they don't really want to belong to our society. So if they don't want to belong here, why don't you just leave? But the reality is that most of the people that they are referring to are actually not first-generation immigrants. They're second-generation immigrants. People who have a Dutch passport, were born and raised here, but who we did not fully integrate into our society.